you're good, that you're on. Oh, there you are. Now I see you. Even better. Are you able to hear us? Hopefully. Nope, we're muted. Patrick, are you able to hear us now?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you now.
Okay, now we'll call us to order. Thank you for your patience, everyone. At this time, I'd call to order the July the 12th meeting of the Board of Education of Lee County. Thank you all for attending. As you notice, we're a little slim at the table today. Ms. Hilliard is traveling out of town with a family situation, and Mr. Kelly is joining us virtually this evening. We are glad to have back our board attorney, Mr. Rawson has rejoined us, and we're glad to have him this evening. And we will, at this time, begin our meeting. If you will, please join us in a moment of silence as we center ourselves on the issues that we have coming before our board today. Thank you. If you would, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, we'll enter the public comments portion of tonight's meeting. We have 4 people who have signed up for comments. Each public commenter is reminded you have 3 minutes with which to share your thoughts with the board. At the end of your comments, you may sit down. At the end of your time, I will simply remind you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next speaker. At this time, I'll get my timer up, and we have Alan Rommel.
Alan Rummel, 1001 Northview Drive in Sanford. So I've noticed a pattern where parents come to these meetings to express concerns, and they're met by board members using their own comments sometimes to deflect and focus on random achievements as if that negates those concerns. Of course, we have good things happening in Lee County schools, but that's not an excuse to ignore the big problems we have that have led to a decade-long decline in state rank. A few top-tier scholarships don't make up for the absolutely dismal test scores in every grade that was reluctantly shared earlier this year. I'm all about celebrating success, but not when it comes as a means to distract from ongoing failure. Leaders aren't afraid to discuss problems to ensure there's focus on those areas. You have a parent asking about transgender policy, which is indeed coming for a vote soon, but the parent says, oh, we have some kids going to Ivy League schools this year. We have a parent expressing concern with CRT and teaching kids that skin color is a character trait, which it's not, and the board says, hey, we're starting a new dual language program. We have board members lobbying personal attacks at a parent in a committee meeting, and the board says that's perfectly acceptable. No wonder I haven't seen a single other parent in the committee meetings I've been able to attend. Meetings that by policy the board must seek parental and community input. So you have parents expressing concern over teachers being forced to accept and deal with disrespectful students and those that refuse to complete assignments. And the board says, hey, we want the commissioners to vote for a 2% pay raise. So if that's the issue you want to champion and ignore the glaring problems that we have, I would recommend that you quit and run to be a county commissioner who has the authority to increase the school system budget. At what point are you going to do the job that you're elected to do? When are you going to shield our children from damaging and immoral policies coming from the federal and state level that have nothing to do with education? Policies that teach that skin color is a character trait, that gender isn't real, but that changing gender might be a way to cure some internal happiness. Policies that allow boys to compete in girls' sports and use girls' facilities. That's just to name a few examples. So this board is responsible for leadership in our schools. So when are you going to put your foot down and be adults and make a solid boundary that children are not permitted to cross in schools? We all know that kids test boundaries, and even us adults do the same thing sometimes. So if there are none, what do you expect will happen? The fact that these glaring issues are being ignored or not discussed publicly kind of tells me a lot about who some of you guys are as board members and what you see as important. And I feel like it's not all of our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Anna Boyles. Anna Boyles, Sandala Court, Sanford. So I come here today as a concerned parent, primarily. I'm also a coach. I coach soccer. I've coached with many leagues around the area. And I have 3 children enrolled in Lee County Public Schools, 2 of which would identify as cisgender female. So I'm here to talk really about some things that are maybe not yet on the table, but possibly soon to be. As a nation, we are attempting to progress forward right now in a lot of areas. And a lot of these attempts are faced with a lot of conflicts because of the multifaceted issue of trans affirmation and trans rights in schools. Now, this comes from a place of not hate or transphobia. This comes from a place of concern specifically for women and for girls and for even trans males, non-binary students. I really just plead with the board at this point that should these really decisions be put in front of you and be put on the table, that we really take time to weed out all of the possibilities, whether it's sharing bathrooms and locker rooms and putting, trans girls on women's or girls' sports teams. I just think that there are so many issues that we have yet to really uncover with just blatantly making new policy just to be affirmative and loving and caring to our children, which all children should receive that no matter what. However, I think we should also regard the fact that the majority of women and girls that are sexually abused in these situations are all cisgendered girls, are all trans males. And if we just make these decisions without consideration for their safety, then we're going to have some real problems on our hands, as we've seen in other counties throughout the U.S. at this point. So please, just think on it. Please don't make any rush decisions, and let parents speak about these things and show their concerns and hash out all of the possibilities so that we can include these children in a way that is not endangering or even emotionally damaging to others. Thank you. Next, we have Jane Womack.
My name is Jim Womack. I live at 1615 Boone Trail Road here in Sanford. Topic tonight is safety. I wanted to talk a little bit about that. I think it's absolutely one of the preeminent thoughts in the minds of our parents and our taxpayers in Lee County. Parents want to know that this board is doing everything practical to protect our children for the 8 hours each day that they're in our charge during the school year. Everything practical. They are less concerned, I think, about who has guns in the county and how many guns they have and what kind of guns they are. I think they really want to protect their children. That's what first and foremost on their minds. So, I think it's only fair that the school board would at least reassure parents that they're doing everything practical that they can to protect our schools, and do that through their actions, not just their words. One comment about guns: the day may come when we train and arm our school employees, or at least the ones that are qualified, to help protect our schools. I think until then, we do a better job at shielding the facilities from outside penetration, from outside perpetrators. That's probably the focus we need to have now. A note on hardening your schools. I noted with interest when I was looking at your school budget, your capital budget for this year, that there wasn't a lot of emphasis placed on hardening your schools, even though the rate of school shooting seems to be higher across the state. Across the county, not necessarily the state. But it seems to me that one of the focuses you would have right now, since the top priority you should have is protecting our children, when they're in your charge would be on hardening the schools or making sure that we've done everything we can to harden our schools. I know there was some money done on the high schools and the middle schools, but I didn't see anything done on the elementary schools. Now, maybe they were already well protected and hardened. I'm not sure, but I didn't hear that. And I didn't certainly see anything in the budget that was addressing that. Hardening the schools is not all that expensive and it isn't all that difficult. In fact, there are plenty of experts in this county, myself included, who know a lot about threat assessment and hardening schools. I mean, we've done that for a living for many years in the military. And I can tell you that there are plenty of experts in this town that would stand ready to provide free advice, free inspections, free assistance in trying to help you have another set of eyes on your facilities and what we can do to make them even more secure and safe for our children. SROs. That's the best investment this county has made in a long time. Back in 2013, when the Republicans took charge of the county commissioners, the SROs were first and foremost on our minds, and we became the first first county in this state to put an SRO in every public school. To this day, there's only a half a dozen counties that have followed suit. I'm very proud of Lee County for what we did back in 2013, and I'm very pleased that we're continuing to invest in the SROs. Now, let's take the challenge and put an SRO in every school, not just the public schools, because the taxpayers are paying for those SROs, and they pay taxes in the private schools just like the public schools. Thank you so much.
And finally, we have Mr. Gaster. Chris Gaster.
Chris Gaster, Sanford, North Carolina, Run School Board 2022. Alan, Anna, and Jim spoke about protecting our children. I'm going to talk about protecting our children, so we kind of got this thing. I'm going to look at y'all's governing principles and policies. Policy 1100. I'm going to look at the first three. Student success. Now, this is considered board expresses its vision. So this is how y'all see it. Student success, parental involvement, safe, orderly, and inviting environment. All three of them just talked about safety. Safety as far as hardening schools against attackers. We live in that age, sad to say. The second thing is this woke ideology that you hear me talk about and preach on every time I get up here. And I think it's time for school board members for y'all to actually make a public comment about it, what y'all plan on doing. Yes, y'all are voting on the bathroom policy to allow little boys in girls' bathrooms. Y'all gonna be voting on to let little boys in the locker room. Y'all gonna be voting on all kind of stuff because your school lunch program is attached to that. Okay? So y'all gonna have to make some hard decisions. I pray that God would lead you in making those decisions. And yeah, we got to respect each other. This is the land of the free and the home of the brave. But this is a Judeo-Christian country. And we have godly principles that we have to uphold. And if you stand against God, then you stand against the wrong one. The next thing I'm going to talk about is cats and hats. You remember the show, the little book, Cat in the Hat, right? So the question that I have that y'all may not know, if you don't, I apologize. But if you do, your head needs to be examined. We have little girls going in our school system dressing up like cats, being led on leashes, stuff like that. But yet a young boy can't walk in the schoolhouse at this school, Lee Christian School, with a ball cap on like I'm wearing tonight right here, without getting reprimanded. And in comes the door, two female girls dressed up like cats and one leading by the leash. Now, we got a problem with that. Now, you want to talk about safe and orderly conduct? Let's just get on down here to policy 3000. How about number 4 and 8? Let's look at number 4 and 8. Y'all look that one up in policy 3000. You know, that's conduct. All right, let's go to 4300, student conduct. Now, if a student is doing something that's going to go against or take away from the learning objective of the students, well, then maybe we need to look at that too. So I'm not only up here talking about transgenderism and this woke ideology and this indoctrination that these public school systems, not only here, but across the United States, is trying to do. But I'm talking about as a school board, you need to get a hold of these principles that's allowing this crap to go on, and you need to put a stop to it. Because if they're going to do it for one, they need to do it for everybody. And if tell you what, if they're going to let somebody dressed up like an animal come in here, they better let me have an hour of Bible study in the classroom. Thank you.
That concludes the public comments portion of tonight's meeting. At this time, I've asked a couple of board members to present the Lee County Vision and Policy 2120, the Code of Ethics. I believe Mr. Ladati has the vision statement.
Lee County Schools, in partnership with the community, will provide challenging learning experiences for students in a safe and supportive environment. We are committed to academic excellence, technological innovations, social responsibility, and lifelong learning. Our success will be demonstrated by the achievement of our students and their positive participation in society.
Thank you. And Mr. McCracken, the Code of Ethics, please.
The board recognizes that collectively and individually, all members of the board must adhere to an acceptable code of ethics in order to improve public education. Members of the Lee County Board of Education should avoid conflicts of interest and appearance of conflicts of interest as we handle the work of the board, avoid the solicitation and or acceptance of gifts in return for advice or assistance on matters concerning the operations of the business of the board, avoid the misuse of public funds, avoid misrepresentation or falsification of facts, and avoid making confidential information public. The board accepts the Code of Ethics established by the North Carolina School Board Association.
Thank you. At this time, we have the agenda before us. Is there any discussion of the agenda? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda for tonight, July 12th, 2022.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the agenda.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There's none. We also have the minutes before us of the regular board meeting of June 14th, the special called board meeting of June 30th, and the student transfer appeal hearings of July 6th. I'd open the floor for a motion at this time.
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve all three sets of minutes. Is there a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm sorry, was that an A?
No, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was like, wait a minute. I tricked my ear for a second. I do apologize. That is unanimous and the minutes are approved. At this time, I have the chairman's report. I really don't have a whole lot going on with the chairman's report other than to recognize that before we meet again as a full board, Tramway Elementary School will begin classes. And that just seems like such a short summer. I know that those students are excited and they're ready to get back to class and do the great things that are coming forth. And I wish them the absolute best start to a new school year. We also have Lee Early College will be kicking off really soon as well. There are a lot of bridge programs this summer that students are taking part in, and I am really excited to see the good things that are happening for our rising kindergartners that are getting a little introduction and a taste of what it's going to look like, so it's not quite as intimidating on that first day when they walk in the buildings. For our rising sixth graders who will be walking into middle school for the first time, which I have one of those, and she is already, her biggest concern is whatever will I wear? So obviously that's not the biggest concern, but she's been in a uniform environment up to this point, so it is a big deal when you're a 10-year-old girl. And then, of course, our rising high school students who are going to get a taste of all the things that are offered in high school and just the buffet of opportunities that are available to them. And I hope they just really enjoy this opportunity to see all that they have available. Other than that, I wish everyone a wonderful end of their summer and getting geared up to start a new school year. At this time, Dr. Bryan, I'd welcome you to the podium for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Had quite a busy week in our schools this week. We've got several camps going on. We have lots of elementary students in our Read to Achieve camp at two of our elementary school sites, and that got started off yesterday. We've also had STEAM camp and cooking camp at our at Southern Lee High School for some elementary students, and their STEAM camps focused on science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And students look like they're having a blast in doing that. As you noted, Madam Chair, Tramway Elementary School will start off on July 20th, and Lee Early College will start back on August 9th. And the students and teachers obviously are ramping up to prepare for that time. I'd also like to give a little bit more detail on our Summer Bridge program. Summer Bridge, for anybody who doesn't know, the Summer Bridge program is a mix of
academics and enrichment with a focus on reading and math, and then some enrichment activities, particularly at the high school level, some areas that students can focus on to further sort of career development or areas that might be of interest to them. And we're very excited about that. We have three different levels of Summer Bridge. The first one is, as you said, for rising kindergartners only, and that's at all locations except Floyd Knight, Tramway, and Wood Williams. That'll be August 8th to 11, and that runs from 8 to 11:30 each day. The middle school Summer Bridge is at East, San Lee, and West, and that runs from August 1st through 12th, and that's 8:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then our high school Summer Bridge, which is August 1st through 12th, is for rising ninth graders only, and that's at Lee County and Southern Lee High School, and 9 a.m. to 2:30. And transportation, breakfast, and lunch are provided for students. And if anybody needs any more information, they can access our web pages or social media for each individual school for that. Certainly, we're very excited to offer all these programs for our students. We've had a great summer so far, and look forward to it continuing. Thank you.
Thank you. We now have the committee reports. This evening, the Curriculum and Instruction Committee report, I actually have the pleasure of presenting as Ms. Hilliard is out, and Mr. Kelly wasn't sure to what extent his audio would be available, so it's my pleasure to say that the Curriculum and Instruction Committee met on July 7th, and it was a very brief agenda, although it was a very detailed report. And that was, we had the 2022-2025 AIG plan presented. This is the plan that sets up what our AIG program is going to look like from, I just drew a blank on the word I'm trying to look for, a designation of AIG students, and then what we do with them once they are identified. Identification, there's the word I was looking for. Once we identify them, the different opportunities that are available for them in our AIG program. This is a plan that we put together every 3 years, and it carries on for some time. The plan was underway when our longtime AIG coordinator, Gail Smith, retired, and we were blessed that two very talented people were able to step up and take the mantle with this, and that's Ms. Leslie Cottrell and Mr. Dylan Crockett. I'm determined to change your name. And they took up the mantle and ran with it and did a fantastic job of putting together a very detailed plan that expands the way we identify students that are academically or intellectually gifted and provide services to more students, beginning with the nurturing program at pre-K. I think that's great that we're pushing it all the way down to the littlest ones, all the way up to the actual identified AIG students and the services that are offered to them from the 4th grade officially and up. And so the plan is very detailed. I hope you took the opportunity to look over it. And that plan is before us tonight on the consent agenda. That was my very brief discussion, and I would certainly open the floor if Mr. Crockett and Ms. Cottrell want to add anything to that report. I thought it was fairly painless and you keep your seats. Okay, so that was my curriculum and instruction report, and the next curriculum meeting is scheduled for September 21st, 2022 at 3:30 in the afternoon, and it will be here at Lee County High School. Next, we have the facilities and technology report. Mr. McCracken.
My report was discussed in the June 30th meeting, but for review, I will share it with you as also tonight. We had a discussion of the Lee County High School chiller and the replacement bids, and it was consensus of the committee to award the Lee County High School chiller replacement bid to Dell Mechanical in the amount of $692,000, funding source ESSER funds, and it was placed on consent agenda on the
June
30th, correct. Also, it was a consensus of the committee to award the central office boiler bid to Dell Mechanical in the amount of $136,425 for the central office boiler bid, and capital outlay would be the funding source there, as well placed on the 6:30 consent agenda. Next item was the Southern Lee High School room namings of 3 rooms, and consensus of the committee to name and dedicate the Julie Randolph Chemistry and Physics Prep Room, the Michael W. Jones Black Box Theater, and the Carolyn S. Allman Student Health Room. And it was also placed on the consent agenda back on June 30th. Chris McNeil reported about the bid received on the East Lee, San Lee, West Lee, Lee County High School, Southern Lee security entrances. Um, and DPI has already approved the plan, and we're trying to make sure that the work to be done when the students and staff are not on campus. And Chris has been meeting with the engineer and contractor and to work through the bid, and we'll continue to monitor that. The next F&T committee meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, August 23rd at 4:30.
Thank you
That
very much.
concludes my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And the Finance Committee met on June 23rd, and I think you have that one as well, don't you?
Yes, ma'am, on behalf of Ms. Hilliard. You'll hear some of the same items that were just discussed in the F&T report. And once again, this was brought up on the June 30th meeting, but will be discussed again tonight as well. First of all, the 2021-2022 budget resolution. Ms. Jones requested the Board of Education agree to suspend restrictions and provisions of the 2021-22 budget resolution, given that a summary of all such transfers must be presented to the board for approval no later than July 12th, 2022, and any transfers resulting extraordinary, unusual occurrences must be notated and explained, and that was approved. The 2022-2023 interim budget resolution, once again presented by Ms. Jones. The Lee County Board of Education adopts an interim budget resolution in accordance with NCGS 115C-434 that authorizes appropriations for usual and customary expenditures not to exceed 85% of the 21-22 school year appropriations. Dr. Waller discussed with us the everyday intervention contract, and this monitors absences of students to notify parents, counselors, and social workers. And the program offer benefits to help lower the absentee rate. The cost would be $72,000, with $30,000 of that of specific ESSER funding, and the additional will be coming from another funding source. Next one that Ms. Jones discussed was the Synovia Solutions Public Education Agreement, and stated that this is the new agreement as approved by the board attorney. Mr. Rawson was able to work out with Synovia on a standard set of revisions to their terms and conditions that can be used for all clients. Total cost of this contract will be $72,900. Also, Ms. Jones continued to discuss the workers' compensation cyber liability. That the 22-23 rates increased for workers' comp by 4.2% and cyber by 41.99%. The bids are completed, and the recommendation was to go with Union Insurance Company for workers' comp and Ace American Insurance Company for the cyber. Ms. Jones also presented the 2022-2023 pay dates. So those are available, as well as next on the agenda was Ms. Jones discussing the public consulting group invoices over $50,000. Stated and attached to the agenda were the invoices from public consulting group in the amount of $105,106.71. And then finally, on the FYI of that meeting was the review of our teacher compensation for classroom coverage, our board attorney invoice, the financial report, the expense summary, and then finally, Chris McNeil and Hyde Associates discussed the 2022 security improvements to Lee County High School, Southern Lee, East Lee, San Lee, and West Lee, an amount of $1.2 million to Muter Construction. The cost would be covered by ESSER funding. A lot on the agenda, Madam Chair. The next finance meeting will be Thursday, August 25th, 5 o'clock in the Heinz booth. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. And there was no policy meeting this past month. So that concludes committee reports at this time. Board, we have the consent agenda before us. We have the fundraisers, the AIG plan on it. Is there any discussion of these items? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Yeah.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? There's none. The consent agenda is approved. We have no unfinished business before the board at this time. So, Ms. Jones, if you didn't have enough on your agendas last month, we have something else coming before us, a property insurance renewal.
Madam Chair and members of the board, you have before you a copy of the property insurance renewal from the North Carolina Department of Insurance in the amount of $166,473. This premium does include $8,500 for our boiler and machinery coverage, $2,000 for terrorism coverage, and $694 for the inland marine policy that is required that we have to have an attachment to the property insurance. This was an increase of $10,000, $10,389 from the 21-22 school year, but an explanation of the premium increase was attached, showing you that the majority of it was due to inflation, and they did make the statement that the Department of Public Instruction, that was changed last year per general statute, and now the Department of Insurance has now taken that over, and they felt that the policy was not adequate to the amount of coverage that was needed.
I do have one question about it. We have the inland marine policy that is attached to our school board's trust policies.
That
This
is
is
correct.
separate yet still required.
Exactly.
Okay, it's just a rider that we're
Yes.
required to pay for no matter what.
Exactly.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I have several questions.
Okay.
Let's start with, does this normally not go to the Finance Committee?
It does, but we received the policy last week. They actually have to send the rider to us, and then we have 5 days to act on it. So I had to actually get them to extend it to the board meeting so that the board could take action on it in order for them.
So technically something that normally goes to the Finance Committee.
That is correct.
So therefore I have multiple questions.
Okay.
First of all, the amounts that you gave, the increase of 10,389, when you tally up 8,500 for the boiler, 2,000 for the tourism, $694 for the inland marine policy, that total does not equal 10,389. That total actually equals 11,194. Is there a reason why those numbers are off?
That $10,000 is not, it's a policy in itself, and it includes all of those items. I just spelled out what the cost was for those additional items. And so it's not that there's a $10,000 for the total cost of the policy. The policy just includes those within that policy.
I got you. But including those within the policy, that's a higher total. That's $11,194 versus the 10,389 increase.
Correct. But the increase is in the base cost, the entirety cost. I've just spelled out those
Came down, the price came down somewhere else then.
They were already included. They were included at a lesser value.
That's what I'm saying. So that's the question. That's why I'm asking the questions. I didn't go before the Finance Committee. Also, we have, when it talks about when we go through the policy, we do not have a copy of that contract with us. What we have is an email that discusses multiple factors that went into the underwriting process. And I understand the 3% each year for renewal. But my questions are, we get certain credits for the sprinkler systems. Is there certain schools that are without the sprinkler systems, or do we even actually have a report from the RSC inspector, the annual report? Do we have a copy of that, the last annual report from the RCS inspector?
I believe Chris McNeil would have that policy. He actually goes with them through every single facility as they go through that.
That would be good information if they don't mind to send to the board, so we know what things they are discrediting us for or adding additional for in the documents. And I know people may have not had time to read through the entire thing, but it talks about the examples is they determine if classrooms have decorations over 50%, the fire alarms, the sprinkler systems, hood suppression systems, things like that. So that's tested and how often they're tested. I would think that report would be vital to this board so we know how to move ahead to assist in any type of improvements that we can make in order to reduce the insurance premium, if that makes sense. And my next question was, have we had any claims in the last 5 years?
I do know that for a fact that we've had several lightning damage with thunderstorms and so forth.
Okay.
that have resulted in loss.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
Any other questions regarding the property insurance? Hearing none, I'd open the floor for a motion at this time.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the insurance renewal and to also have the board send a copy of the RCS Inspector Annual Report. Does that need to be two separate motions?
I think it's just a single motion to approve with a request to have this sent to the board. I don't think it necessarily has to be in the form of a motion.
Thank you, ma'am.
So, Ms. Jones, if you'll get that inspection report. Thank you so much. We have a motion on the floor to renew the property insurance. Is there a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There is none. The property insurance is approved. At this time, we have board member comments. Each board member is allotted 3 minutes to share with the community any concepts or ideas that they have. I'm trying to get my phone to wake up. I will start with our newest board member. I'll start on this end of the table and work our way across. And Mr. Kelly, no offense, sir, but I will make you last. That way we can make sure our mics are quiet so we can hear you. Mr. Ladati, 3 minutes.
Thank you. I don't have too many comments. I'm still coming up to speed somewhat, but I did want to say thank you to all of the leadership members that have given me advice, guidance on procedures and processes. Fellow board members, it's been drinking from a fire hose, but I'm excited for it. I'm excited for the challenge, and I'm excited for the opportunity. So thank you all.
Thank you. And Ms. Womack?
I'd like to thank the people that's in the community. Particularly, I would like to make a point of highlighting the Christian United Outreach, who is doing the backpacks for children and going from one location to another. It's very interesting to me as a board member that you see where these children come from and where we want them to go. I'd also like to mention that at our last board meeting, we made a decision in closed session and came out in open session and voted on it. I'm very disappointed in the board taking action to substantially increase the compensation level of any staff member without first establishing what that staff member is already being paid and then justifying the substantial increase by not showing us the levels of compensation that are typical across our state. In doing my own research this week, I discovered we are now paying nearly double what any larger school districts are paying for the same services, well over $125,000. We need to do more to be deliberate and comprehensive in all our reviews of all salaries and compensations in the future before we do any knee-jerk increases in staff salaries. Our taxpayers deserve better. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McCracken?
Next time we meet, most folks will be, or a lot of folks will be back in school, so I hope everyone is enjoying their summer and get a good start to the new school year. I'd like to piggyback a little bit on what Ms. Bowen said on our last 3 minutes about reading, picking up a book and reading this summer. I am seeing more and more, I call them community roadside libraries, and I hope a lot of you will take advantage of that the rest of the summer and walk by one of those boxes and pick out a good book to read and then share it with someone. And then finally, I think I say this every year at this time in my 3 minutes, but the summer and the start of school is an excellent opportunity for middle schoolers and high schoolers to find an extracurricular activity that they want to be involved with. There are all kinds of things. There are obviously our sporting teams will be starting up. There's theater. There's show choirs. There's so many different things that you can participate in that just makes you full, total, all-around student. So I encourage each one of our students who are not in our extracurricular activities to find one that they may have some interest in and go and join that and see where it takes you. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Womack? Oh, Ms. Sutton. I apologize. I looked at Ms. Womack and said her name. No comments. Okay, thank you. I just want to take a moment with I'm trying to set my timer, and it's not cooperating. Here we go. just to say that service on this board is not as glamorous as it may look on the outside. It is a lot of work, and I think Mr. Ladati had a really good explanation. Even coming into this board, it is drinking from a fire hose. The thing is, 6 years in, I'm still drinking from the same fire hose. The information comes at me from 100 different directions. And I know that some people have said that we as a board don't share information to the degree that they would like. And that it is never my effort or my intention to withhold information. But I will say some things, and by policy, we do not respond to comments on the night they're made at the podium. But I had already planned to kind of discuss this, and so I wanted to make sure that it wasn't seen as a response to a particular speaker. It's not. The activities that we take as a board and the actions that we take to protect our students and to educate our students, sometimes those are taken with less open discussion, and there's a reason for that. For instance, we're doing a great many security upgrades at our schools. These are things that we designate as important and that they are going to provide a safety measure to keep outsiders outside and to make sure that those who are on the inside have an added layer of protection. This is absolutely an important thing that we're doing. We have a lot of challenges in doing that. We are in an environment right now where construction personnel and materials are few and far between and come at a premium. And so that's going to take time and it's going to take money. And you're not going to see us come up here and tell you all of the security issues that we have already identified and are addressing because we want to address those security issues before they become a liability. And so you're not going to have us come up here and tell you, well, we designate this as a problem area and this is a problem area because the very people we don't want to know those things would be the first ones listening to those presentations. And so I do want you to understand from a board member's perspective that we are working diligently on multitudes of ideas and activities that are to improve the safety, the security, the education, and the well-being of our students. I would encourage anyone to get out and get involved. Learn about the dual language programs and what it's designed to do and what it's already doing in Title I schools across the Southeast. You will see that that is improving test scores, it's improving student well-being, and it's providing a choice for students in our public schools that often are only offered in our private schools. Last but not least, it is always going to be the mission of this board to provide the best opportunities we can for the public schools of Lee County. We cannot be held accountable for what private schools do or don't do, or who they have or who they don't have. We have to take care of the ones under our roofs, in our classrooms, and the teachers and staff members who take care of them. That's our mission. Thank you. Mr. Kelly, if you are able to unmute yourself, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, everyone, for what you do for Lee County Schools. And at this point, I don't have any public comments to continue. Thank you.
Short and sweet. Thank you very much. That concludes the board member comments portion of tonight's meeting. Ms. Womack, I've asked you to please read the
Madam Chair, I move that the Lee County Board of Education go into closed session under NCGS 143-318.11A, 1, A3, and A6 to discuss confidential student information under NCGS 115C-402 to discuss confidential personnel information under NCGS 115C-319 and 115C-321 and to consult with the board attorney and maintain the attorney-client privilege.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we will resume into closed session. Thank you. To order the final action of the open session of Lee County Board of Education. We have two motions this evening. Mr. McCracken.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I make a motion the County Board of Education approve the 2-year contracts as presented in closed session.
We have a motion to approve the 2-year administrator contracts. Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There is none.
Madam Chair, I move that the Lee County Board of Education approve the Human Resources Report.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There's none. At this time, that brings to the conclusion our Board of Education meeting, and I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There's none. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Good job. Mission accomplished.